All right. Excellent, guys. Thank you all for joining today. This is, I think, our ninth, I want to say, maybe 10th installment of our franchise interview series. We do these once a month with a franchisee. And it's really an opportunity and a platform for the franchisee to tell their story, to talk about their evaluation period, to talk about their growth period, to talk about how they're doing now, and really get a chance to tell their story. And it's it's important for us to, give you guys the platform to hear from them. And whenever I look at a franchise opportunity, one of the first things that I think about is that franchisor offering, the real role of the franchisor is to offer support, training, processes, procedures, systems. And this is a platform for us to talk about those and to let you guys hear about how they're being implemented on the franchisee side. So today we have Vaishali joining us, who is down in, let's see here, it's Southwest Houston, correct?
Correct.
And Vaishali is a multi-unit owner, a multi-territory owner in Southwest Houston. Vaishali, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, what I want to do is, why don't you just, we're going to make this super conversational. Like I said, guys, I want you guys to be able to ask as many questions you want. We'll have a time afterwards that, at the end of this, that we'll be able to answer those. But why don't you just give a little bit of your background and your bio, Vaishali?
Sure. So I'm an occupational therapist by training, and I have now practiced in the Houston area for about 30 years. I'm a clinician at heart, and I really wanted to start a business of my own. I had moved in from adult care into pediatrics for half and half, and I thought about starting a business. And when I started thinking about starting the business, this seemed to really fit well with the occupational therapy training that I'd had. Mm-hmm. And then I remembered back when I did adult care, when I wanted to discharge patients home, they just didn't have options in those days. Like, this was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to start an agency that would give people that great option, that was, they could rely on. And so I thought, why not? This is in the healthcare field. I wanted to stay in the healthcare field, and I wanted it to be of service to others. So this just fit my background really well. I met with HomeWell, and I met with a couple of other people, but I absolutely fell in love with HomeWell. So here I am.
We'll talk about that a little bit. Go back a little bit and talk about your initial. Okay, so you're in occupational therapy. You see there's a need, specifically, when you're in the adult field. So how did you start? How did you start going through the process? How did you and who did you look for? What were you looking for in a company? When you initially made that decision, I'm going to start looking and going down this path?
Right. So this opportunity actually just fell in my lap. I had reconnected with a former colleague of mine who owned a competitor in the Houston area, an agency, and she was looking to sell. And so I started talking to her, and just to cover my bases, I called other people. I called HomeWell and another couple of other companies. And the response that I got from HomeWell, just valuing my background, and it was just, remarkably different from the others. And I just thought, this is where I belong. It was more like a family approach. Everybody was just wonderful. And they, even though I didn't have any business background, like I said, I'm a clinician. I'm a trained clinician. I'm a clinician at heart. They just told me, well, the business part we can teach you. You have the heart. And I was really, really happy that they recognized that part, that I had the skills, I had the heart. I just didn't have the training to run a business, which I could learn. And so that's how I decided to go with HomeWell.
So when you initially started your process and you said, okay, I'm going to go out there and evaluate this potential buy, resale. And then you did some shopping to make sure that you were going in the right direction with the right company. When you initially made out that list, which I don't know if you did it like in your own head, if you wrote it down, what were some of the things that you need to have addressed by a company to feel comfortable with that company? And then how did those things get covered off by HomeWell?
Growth opportunities was one big thing. I wanted to grow with a company. That prospect is more exciting to me than going into a well-established company and being the small fish in a big pond. Sort of, I saw the potential in HomeWell. I knew that the company was growing and I wanted to be part of that growth. That is one of the main reasons I picked HomeWell.
Okay. So growth opportunities, but the idea that you have the access to white space, that there's still,
yes,
you're not fighting for a sliver of the territory they're forcing you to take.
And absolutely. And at that point, there was really nobody here in Houston. It was just me. And so I saw this wide open area and, just the other parts fitting well, the people that I worked with, talked to, Michelle and Casey and all of the group at corporate just was wonderful to work with. And that just made it so much easier.
So, it looks like that played a bit into it as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like potentially like your access to the team and access to senior leadership as well. Knowing that you're getting access to the VP and the CFO and the CEO, getting a little more ability to grow with the team there.
Yes, absolutely. I know that I can call even now, like I can call or text or email anybody and I get a response, immediately. They're there. All of you are there to help us out with whatever needs we have. So that's also very important because it's a growing company and we have so much access to the leadership team. It really is like a family. I feel so comfortable, emailing or calling Brandon and our franchise support team, the advisors, business advisors that we have. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what year was it that you started your initial evaluation and what year did you sign?
2018. It happened pretty fast. I started thinking about it in June and then in August I signed the contract. And Texas is a state that requires a license, so I had to file for the license. And by the time I got my license, it was December of 2018. So I waited till 2019 to open my doors. Okay. And February 18th was our first day.
So you were, that was post Bruce coming on board. Brandon came on board right at that same time. Crystal was on.
Correct.
Michelle.
Brandon was a little bit later. I met Crystal. Crystal was the chief marketing officer. I met her in 2018 at the conference in September. And then slowly, I think Brandon came on a little bit after that.
Yeah. So you were right on the cusp of what we joke about as a HomeWell 2.0.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
You were right at that same timing.
Yes, correct. In 2019, exactly a year after I signed on with HomeWell, we changed our logo and the rebranding happened.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your initial ramp up. Talk to me about your licensure process and, kind of support systems that are around that and how how did you ramp up in your business and go from there?
So the licensing process in Texas is pretty arbitrary. It's not like Florida where it takes much longer. Some people get it in 2 weeks. I believe the Cyprus people got their license in 2 weeks, and then somebody in Dallas, they had gotten it in 8 weeks. I got mine in 6 weeks. It was really, I probably would have gotten it earlier. I had filed for it and then gone on a trip to India to see my family there, and they were needing some extra forms. And I remember one of the opening services advisor called the licensing board and went through that with them for me because I couldn't call from India, and then emailed me what I needed to send. And I was able to do that because getting on a call from India here was really difficult. So that's the kind of support I got even before I had opened my doors. And that was, it just made me feel like, oh yeah, I made the right decision to go with this company. So that happened. We, initially, it's really the other franchise owners are also so supportive. So I would reach out a lot to Ronnie Taylor in Austin and he really helped me a lot with, because it's the Texas regs and we wanted to make sure. And then Steve Watley from Dallas also helped a lot with the policies and procedures and getting all the Texas regs in place. So that was also very good, because I think in the system, everybody's so supportive. Nobody is like, well, I'm not going to help you because, you might do better than me. No, it's nothing like that. Yeah, we're helpful. So
it's always one of my questions.
So that was,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, it's yeah, like I said, I can reach out to any of the franchisees. Nobody will, ignore me. And then when I wanted to set up, so in Texas, we can do RN delegation, and then so we can do medication management if we have an RN on staff. And Tim Spalding from Seattle area helped me out with all of those policies to put those in place. And then I modified them to suit Texas, but all the forms, the delegation forms, he sent me all of that. So I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. It was so easy to do that.
That's awesome.
So the other franchisees are super supportive and always there for you.
That's always one of my questions that I ask during the franchise interview. Typically towards the end of it, I always ask, how's your relationship with the franchise network? Because to me, it's I've been in franchising for a decade, and I've either worked for or consulted for a number of different franchisees. And I've never been in a system like it. I've never been in a system where people are so open to help, that it's such a friendship there. It's one of the things that I absolutely adore about HomeWell. During my evaluation period of coming on board, that's one of the things that I just was blown away on, and the leadership team and all those things. So it's really, really interesting.
Yeah. And, you guys set up those calls where we do the validation calls, and sometimes we just hit it off with some of the people. And when they come on board, we stay friends. And Tracy Dominguez from Colorado is one of those people that I had spoken to way back before she started, and we've stayed friends. And I was in Colorado last week, and I drove up to Colorado Springs to see her, and we spent the afternoon together. So it was wonderful to be at her office and see how she's doing things. And it makes you feel good that you help somebody and they're successful now. They're on their way to becoming so much more successful. So Absolutely. That was really nice to see that.
So talk about your initial time. Like, what was your, I guess, one of the things that was always questions around is, how did you staff your initial, when you open your doors, how are you staffing? Is there something you did differently in terms of your staffing, or in hindsight, if you have 20/20 vision, if you can go back, how would you change some of the things that you did to be more successful in your HR policies?
Yeah. So my goal has always been, to have a business that I can run from anywhere. I love to travel a lot. So I wanted this to be a business. So I had to hire the right people. I hired an office manager to begin with, and it's somebody who was known to me, or I met through somebody who I know. She's sister of the office manager at the clinic that I used to work at. And so completely trust her. She's been amazing. And I can leave for 2 weeks at a time, and she's able to handle everything. So she and I were the first ones. My biggest struggle in the beginning was marketing. I am truly an introvert by nature. I'm a learned extrovert, and marketing and sales is just, or I thought was not my thing, but apparently I've been told that I'm pretty good at it. So that was my struggle in the beginning. So I did all the sales and marketing, and Monica, my office manager, managed, the phones and the hiring and all of that. I've learned over the years that, over the past 2 years, that HomeWell has a great sales program. They teach you everything. But my initial struggle was fitting into that model. And, I'm just not one of those people who's detail oriented, but that doesn't matter. I had that building block from HomeWell, and I decided, instead of trying to fit into that mold, I'm just going to create my own mold with that building block. And I don't honestly, do all the Excel spreadsheets and all of that. That's just not me. My salespeople do it, but if I'm doing the marketing, I don't do that because that's not my nature. And I decided I wasn't going to struggle with it. I was going to do it my way, and it has worked well. So I think my advice would be to make it your own. Use the HomeWell brand. We have all of that, but just make your business your own with that matches your personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Say, what was your next thought? You look like you're about to make one more point there.
Yeah, no. So that was my biggest struggle, the marketing in the beginning. And after that, I decided to hire some salespeople. A couple of them didn't work out well. And then the pandemic hit. And I finally hired somebody who really helped take our business to where it is now. And this year, because of that, I was able to add 2 more territories to the.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. You've grown.
Yes, grown. But that was always my plan. I thought maybe I should start off with 2 territories, but that was the other thing that I really, really appreciated about HomeWell is that they said, Houston is open for you, and you don't need to do that. Just be successful with 1 territory. They didn't. It was money in HomeWell's pocket, right? If I were to buy 2 or 3 territories at one time, but they really worked with me and coaching me that these are open for later. You can add them once you're successful with 1 territory. And I really appreciate that, because I think if I'd bought 2 or 3 at the beginning, it would have been difficult. It would have been really difficult. So once I got all the processes in place and kind of figured out this whole sales and marketing stuff, I can confidently now add more territory. So this was a good year to do that.
Yep, absolutely. Talking about your growth, so 2019 you have your first year. January, basically you have a January to December first year, and then talk about a little bit about your first year, because I want to go then into what happened. Like a little thing happened in March of 2020. I'm not sure if you heard about this, but we had this little pandemic happen. So I want to talk about how your first year went, and then how did the COVID affect your business in 2020?
Yeah. So 2019, we started in February of 2019, and by May I had about 420 hours a week, which was amazing. Like I couldn't believe it myself. And then I made the mistake, I hired somebody who didn't work out for sales and marketing, and then slowly it started to go down. I realized that I needed to get back in there and do the sales myself, which I was so trying to avoid, but I had to do it. So I got back out there and started doing it. And I was just getting in the swing of things when, that little event in March happened, and everything just came to a standstill. And I'm telling you, I don't think we would have survived without HomeWell, without the corporate office. They were amazing. You guys were all just amazing. Everybody just, pitched in and came up with ideas. The digital marketing team, the marketing team, it was fantastic. We were coached on how to do Facebook. We had individual meetings with the digital marketing director. And she taught us how to do all this. And I can still use it today. I mean, we did videos. We couldn't go into any facility. So this was our only outlet. So we were doing videos every day, talking to the public, talking to our referral sources. We got on Zoom and just learned how to do that. We did other things. And that was all ideas from other franchisees. We had constant meetings. Every week we were on sales calls. All of that support from the corporate office really, really helped us get through that pandemic. And I started seeing the hours go up slowly. Of course, there was the factor that, people didn't want their loved ones to be in facilities. So that also did help the business. But I don't think our brand awareness now in Houston is gone up. Now we're getting random calls from people we haven't approached. I just got a referral today from a home health agency that I'd never heard of. And I was like, where did you hear about us? And like, you guys are everywhere. We just knew, we looked up and there you were. So that has really helped with the brand awareness, with HomeWell teaching us how to do digital marketing, because it's actually really fascinating, how to do stuff on Facebook and put up ads. And, we learned all that during the pandemic.
Absolutely. That's so cool. So, I mean, no, go ahead.
Yeah. Monthly schedules of what to put on Facebook, do a video today, do a post today, boost a post today. It was all clearly sent to us every month, which was so helpful. It was really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially for someone who says, you're admittedly maybe not, and listen, you and I, same boat here. I am admittedly not the most detail-oriented person. And when you can have those aspects of someone just saying, hey, let me help you here. This may not be your strength, but this is why you have a team around you. So really you came on, rated that transition, and it kind of pivots over to where I want to go with this as well. And I want to go back to your growth again, but you came on board with basically the transition of HomeWell from Bruce coming in as the operating partner. And you've seen the iterations of growth at HomeWell 2.0, we call it. Talk to me about your overall, what you've seen, if any, in changes in level of support and access. And, I know we've grown on the corporate side, but how has that affected you over the last 2 years as HomeWell 2.0 continues to grow?
So the support team are, I don't know what the exact name is. Brad and Matt, they're the franchise support team. Katie, they're amazing. That, I think the quality of that support has just gone up astronomically, and it's been wonderful to have that. The other thing is we're looking at taking these personality tests, and I think we're being matched according to the personalities. So the person who's matched to me is just great, because he's like the exact opposite of my personality. And so he sees the detail, he's very detail oriented, and makes me see things that I don't see. I'm more of a big picture person. So he's like, wait, come back here a little bit, back up a little bit, and let's be here and not in, don't have your head in the clouds up there. So let's come down to earth a little bit. So it's been wonderful. The support just has, gone up so much in the past 6-7 months, I would say.
Yeah, we're continuing to add more and more on. So it's great to hear you say that. It's, it's great for us. Hey, I see a bunch of more people have joined on since my last thing. And just a heads up to everybody who has joined on, make sure if you have any questions to please tap them into the chat or the Q&A. We'll make sure we address this. I apologize, Vaishali, for stopping there, but I just looked down and saw that we had another half dozen plus join us since the start of it.
Right. And I see there's a question from Yvonne about what do I pay salespeople? So I again had no idea what to pay them, where to start, and I reached out to Ray Black, and I follow his model that he had created, and so we pay them a base salary. Just depends on what that base salary is. I try to keep it on the lower side, but I'm told that I pay much more than some others in the franchise are paying. So we're trying to adjust that. And then we pay them $1 per hour that they bring in as commission. So for instance, if they bring in 100 hours this week, they'll get $100 for the life of that client, as long as the client stays with us. So next week, if they bring in another 100, then they get the $200. So that's how they get it. So their potential is pretty high to make 6 figures if they are really good.
Yeah, that's a great way of doing it. That's a really smart, I think, because now they're motivated in terms of just bringing on the right people, getting the right clientele in. One of the things I always like to talk about in terms of the clientele as well is that I think there is a myth. At least I had it, and I've talked to other people who had it, that in healthcare, every single one of your patients is a 24-hour patient. my only access to home healthcare originally was my wife's grandmother, and she had a live-in person who was there with her when she passed away. So this is a very, she came to every single one of our family dinners. She came to Christmas. She was a person who was consistently in our lives, and still to this day, by the way, she still comes to Christmas. She didn't come, we didn't do Christmas last year, but she's still involved. She comes to the holidays. We still keep in contact with her. That's how important this individual was to our family. With that being said, talk a little bit about your mix, because I do like to debunk that a little bit. And then do you have a certain philosophy on, did you, one of the things that I think it was Steve Watley said is he never was agnostic to anybody. If someone needed 2 hours, he'll take them. He didn't have this 15-hour barrier to start off with. So just, or maybe that was Rob Locke, I think, actually. So go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't either. But I saw how progressively it got more and more difficult to staff those shifts. Caregivers don't want to drive. Houston is so spread out, and we're used to driving 30 minutes to go anywhere. That's normal for us. But it got more and more difficult to staff those 4 hours here, 4 hours there. And then my office manager and my care manager were reporting back to me that they're spending more time on staffing those rather than the 24/7s. And so we said, okay, this year we started off with a minimum of 4 hours per caregiver visit. And then we started off with 12 hours per week. And we've now gone up to 16, and we're pushing the 20 mark. And it's worked out well. I mean, as our minimum. As our minimum. Go ahead.
I was going to say, how did your ability to take those 4-hour patients and those 4-hour clients, rather, how did that help in your relationship with your referral sources? Did that help you build a trust and that you can go back to them and say we're 20-hour minimum and they'll continue to send you patients because of that?
They've seen the quality of our work now, and the clients have given us great reviews, and so I think starting out small wasn't too bad of an idea, but as we started getting more clients, we were spending equal amount of time on that. So it was time to say, okay, we've got to have some minimums in place. Starting out small like that, 4 hours here, 8 hours there, it was just a way of getting our name out. And we could say, we have a client, we have these clients. The referral sources didn't ask us how many hours we were billing. They would usually ask us, well, how many clients do you have? We have 5 clients, even if they had just 4 hours each, it didn't matter. So it helped getting that brand awareness and our name out there, and getting them to trust us with more clients.
Well, that's great that you have that ability to now kind of be a little bit more thoughtful about and selective, because it's continuing. Your growth is, outstanding. And then in this, let's see here, it must have been March this year, you added on 2 new territories.
Yes, correct.
Right?
Yeah, in March.
And I remember because you were in India again, right when there was a period where you were about to add on new territories, and then I think you went away for a couple months or about a month because of some family.
For a family emergency. Yeah, I was gone for a month, and we actually started the talks about the territories last year, like Q4. And we just took our time, just kind of figuring it out, and we didn't sign until I got back from India. So March was the launch of those areas.
Yeah. So how is your growth going in those territories?
It's going well. We are actually getting more clients in Houston. We're still working on Katy. We just haven't, gotten that traction yet in Katy. But the Houston area is going well. We were getting more clients in the Houston area, the territories that we added in the Houston area. And then Sugar Land has just skyrocketed. So the Fort Bend area has skyrocketed. So we're doing well with that.
Nice.
Yeah, but we're working on Katy. Katy needs a little bit more work.
Okay, we'll get there. You'll crack it, Vaishali.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I always find fascinating about because everybody has a different kind of philosophy towards it. And this is there is a hiring piece to this. Part of it is your retention of your caregivers and the hiring of your caregivers, which is always going to be the question mark. How do you do it? And everybody has a different HR philosophy on how they do it, how they go about it. I've asked every single franchisee this, and I think it's a really important question to ask. So what I want to know is what is your kind of HR philosophy? And how has that kind of transitioned to helping you retain your staff members?
Yeah, as we know, there's high turnover in this business. The caregivers will go from one place to the other just for the money. And my philosophy is if they come in talking about money, we end the interview right there. So if their first question when we do the phone screen is how much do you pay, they don't even come to the interview, because that just tells me, and history, from the first time that we started hiring, it's told me that those are the ones that will leave you for that extra dollar somewhere else, because they're so concerned about how much you're paying. Not that money's not important, it is important, and it's a hard job that they do. But if the first question when you sit across from me, you ask me is how much do you pay, before you ask me about the company or ask me what the job is, we're ending the interview. So money talk should be the last. That's my philosophy.
Yeah.
And talk about the job should be the first thing.
Yeah. And I feel like that's probably been something that's been really strong in helping you retain staff
Yes,
members.
it really has. We have a set of caregivers. Yes, their caregivers have come and gone, but we have at least 20 caregivers who have been with us over a year and a half now, which has been wonderful. And they're the ones who are there. They'll take any shifts. They never talk about money. We give them raises and they're so thankful. They're just in this because they have the heart and they want to do this job. So that makes a huge difference. If they're, and they never talked about money. They started off with, the bottom-most salary and worked their way up, and they're still here. So they're the most valuable employees.
Yeah. And I'm sure that they create a culture as well. They probably create a culture inside of your system that, listen, like I said, I've worked in a lot of different franchise systems, and I've worked in a lot of different, I've run operations teams, and I've done all these different things. And the one thing that I always realize is that when you don't have a certain HR philosophy and you kind of go and hire whomever you're going to hire, and you're not paying attention to that piece of it, it can become, it can eat, if you bring the wrong person in, it can be cantankerous to your entire organization. But having the right people in place, the right step, and that, I think that's how, listen, that's how we look at the franchise development side as well. We want to bring the right people in. We want to bring Vaishali's in, and Ronnie Taylor's and Ray Black's and Rob Locke's and these people, because look at the relationship we have inside of the space, right? And we're picky about the franchisees we bring in. And that's why every franchisee talks to 4, 5, 6, 7 different, franchisees, and we get feedback from you guys when you have these conversations.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you were asking me before, is why I picked HomeWell. It's where you fit in, what culture you fit into, and so that's how we pick our caregivers too. We have to like them, because we're sending them into people's homes. If we don't like them, just because they have the qualification, I can't put my stamp on it and say this person is good to go into your home. So all around, we love all our caregivers. If we don't like them, they're not going to come on board. My office manager and care manager, they're really good at picking on those people, and they go, well, we don't like them. So we don't make an offer for those people.
Yeah. How has your balance been in life? I know you like to travel. You just got back from a great vacation. I know you're foodies, right? So you that. So, Chris Sampson, when we talked to her, she was leaving for 72 days to go to Australia, and Ray Black was talking about.
So jealous of her, so envious.
Ray was talking about how he got a private chef down in Jamaica and all these different things. So how has your balance been? How is that in general in terms of your work-life balance?
I'm not going to complain. It has been great. My philosophy's always been, I didn't want to be, what do they say, working in the business or working on the business, the other way around. I wanted to work on the business, not in the business. in the business. Correct. That's it. So I can, make phone calls. I've done Zoom assessments from wherever I was. I've just said, I'm out of town. I can talk to you on Zoom. And the pandemic actually helped us, right, with that, because people became familiar with Zoom.
Right.
And so family members were also okay with doing that. I've done Zoom assessments from India, and it's been great. I think the whole business has just changed so much now that we can work from anywhere. But so I have been able to travel. The only reason I didn't travel as much last year was because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I've traveled, I think, enough. I'm getting ready to go to India again in August.
Well, that's great. I'm super happy to hear that. Listen, we have 7 questions, and I have a feeling that more and more are going to come.
I see.
And I want to be cognizant of people's timing. And so when I start wrapping up here, and a couple things that I always like to ask, just in general, towards the end of this, how's business? How you doing? How's business going?
Good. Business is good. It's just get better. We have been at about between 1,100 to 1,200 hours a week right now. Our goal was to hit 1,200 June 30th, which we did, but then we lost a client. So we're on track for our goals. 1,500 hours by the end of September is our goal right now. So that's, I think we can get there.
So you're looking at like probably you do kind of 3-month quarterly segments of like how you plan your goals.
Yeah.
Nice. And you're tracking
Yes.
to 1,500. That's great. If you're tracking to 1,500 hours by September, that's awesome.
By September, yes. I think we had a little bit of a transition. One of my salespeople ended up leaving in just last week, so we're looking for another salesperson. So I think once we get that person in, we should be able to get there easily. Yep. So.
Outstanding. And then my final question I always leave everybody at is, would you do it again?
Yes, I would definitely do it again. I love learning, and this has been such a great learning process for me. I know I have a lot more to learn. That's the exciting part, the scaling part that Brad helps me with now. The scaling is what is the most exciting part for me, growing these territories and just being successful at it. It's exciting. I would definitely do it again.
Nice. Well, let's jump into some of these questions, and guys, continue to add more questions to this. So, Yvonne, your first question was, what do you pay your salespeople base commission? Can you share when you hit your return on investment? Are you enjoying the process? So the process. Yvonne, I'm going to, for the sake of FTC purposes and the fact that I probably shouldn't be on a phone call when you answer the ROI question, I'm gonna ask, I probably won't go into the ROI one just on that. I mean, maybe you and Vaishali can connect individually to have that conversation. Sure. I want to be making sure that we're staying within regulations of FTC. Sorry. Ballpark on base. Are you comfortable talking about the ballpark on your base for your salespeople?
Sure. It just depends. In our area, it's about 40 to 50 base. It's for starters. I think if I paid more, I'd probably get somebody more experienced. But that's the base, 40 to 50,000 per year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Matt Sims, if someone is more open to various territories or moving even, what would the main factors you consider in terms of choosing a territory based on the upstart experience and the challenges you face?
You really want to live in the territory or close to the territory. I realize that as I've grown the businesses, especially in a big city like Houston. Initially, when I was looking at, the competitors' territory, my friend's territory, it was 45 minutes from where I live. And that would have been very difficult for me to navigate every day. And also every time I have to go do warm handoffs or intros or do assessments, it's a lot. And even doing marketing in those areas, sales in those areas. So you really want to be in the middle of that territory, living there.
Perfect. Was it easier in starting the other territories than your first one? What was the difference?
Oh, definitely. Because, well, you know, the territories, it's not like when I had even that one territory and we would go to events and stuff, there were people from other territories, right? So they got to know us and they got to know the HomeWell brand, even though we were not in those territories. So it was so much easier when we got out and said, now we officially can service these territories.
Yeah.
That was the difference. The name was already out there. People knew of us.
Please expand on the insurance requirements and suggestions.
Insurance requirements as in liability insurance? Is that the
I'm
question?
not certain if liability, or maybe she's talking about Medicaid or Medicare, Medicaid, which I don't know. You probably, are you mostly private pay?
Yes, we're private pay and long-term care insurance. We don't do Medicaid. The reimbursement for Medicaid in Texas is horrible, so it's not worth my time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have another?
But if you're talking about,
go ahead.
Or only HomeWell, only HomeWell.
Yeah, we're
the
HomeWell
entity
franchise,
name
yep.
is, yeah.
And you mentioned conference.
Entity name and then DA, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned conference. Explain what you mean by conference. And I could, I think you're going to be doing a better justice than me. Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, conference is, the annual conference where all the franchisees get together with the corporate team, and there are speakers who come in. Of course, we didn't have one last year. It was canceled. We had a virtual one. We couldn't do it in person. And this year also, we're not having one. It's been moved to spring of 2022. But this year we're doing something different, which is I'm so excited about, because that was one of my suggestions, Dan, on the, when they asked us for input, is to do the regional meetings. Yeah. So we're having the regional meetings this year, and I'm so excited about that. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, I think everybody's a little excited about that one. Across the board, we're all pretty excited. Excellent. Who else, guys? What other questions do we have out there for Vaishali? I know one of the questions was from one of the people is that can they contact you directly to have a longer conversation? So I don't know,
absolutely. I'm happy. Can I type my phone number in here or my email address? I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, if you want to do either, you can do that. Yeah. If you want to type your phone number or your email address, absolutely, and then everybody, you guys can see it in the Q&A section.
I can't type here for some reason.
Oh.
Okay, let me just type. I'm just typing an answer to somebody's question.
Let's see here. Another question came up while we're talking about this. Is it hard to find decent caregivers? Do you need to be in a large city to do that?
I am in a large city, so I'm not sure if that's a good question for me. Honestly, we have not had a hard time getting caregivers. We are really, really picky. They go through 3 rounds, like the initial phone conversation, then they come in, and then there's also still, they come in for orientation. We also in our office just started a skills lab where they have to come and demonstrate their skills. So they can't just talk about it. They have to show us what they know how to do. And after that, if we still feel like they don't have the skills, we don't staff them. We just pay them for orientation and deactivate them. So we're really picky. haven't really had a hard time finding people. There have been some dry spells once in a while, but not really. Last year was maybe a little bit, difficult in the sense there were a lot of checks being sent and people didn't want to work and wanted to stay at home. So, but it kind of went with our growth as we grew, the more and more people started coming back into the workforce. So it really hasn't been that difficult.
All right, great. That's awesome. Everybody, just in case you didn't see, Vaishali added her phone number and her email address. She answered Lydia's question. If you guys can see that, please let me know. She answered Lydia's question about, you mentioned conference. If you guys can see that in her space, if, maybe Yvonne, if you can see that, just shoot me a message saying that you guys can see that. What type of business does this fall under, proprietorship or LLC? I'll answer that one. Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Mine is an LLC.
Yeah, most people, I think one of the things that we always tell people is do what's comfortable for you. A lot of times speak with your accountant, speak with your attorney, whatever you're, the most comfortable with. However, some people are going to be a C Corp if they're funding in a certain way. Some people are going to be, an LLC. I mean, I don't think we have any sole proprietors, and we probably typically wouldn't have any sole proprietors, but these are definitely things that you should, you can have an individual conversation with your accountant, your attorney, whomever you want to have as your person there. Oh, Yvonne, you can see the her contact information. So thank you for providing that, Vaishali. That was kind of you to do that.
No problem. Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, unless anybody else has any questions, this was great. There was some really phenomenal questions. There were, it looks like 11 total questions. And Vaishali, thank you so much. Anything before we go ahead, anything you want to impart upon us before we go ahead and close the interview today?
I'll also say, don't overthink it. If it feels right, go for it. The support is there. We're all here. The franchisees, I know my fellow franchisees, I'll help my fellow franchisees, and then the corporate office is there to help. So you're not going to get all your questions answered before you start. Some of the things you're just going to have to find out on your own. So my advice is don't overthink it before signing up. Just do it.
Just like Nike. Brilliant. Well, Vaishali, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much. This recording will be placed on our YouTube playlist for you guys to listen to again. Vaishali, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy day. I know your schedule's crazy, but I really was great getting the chance to just listen to you and talk to you about the opportunity. And, hopefully this is, some of the people who are on this, webinar today will call you up and say, hey, thank you for doing that. Now I'm a fellow franchisee with you.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.